What if everything you believed about the stars of old Hollywood was a lie? Beneath the glittering lights, designer gowns, and red carpet smiles, the biggest legends of the silver screen lived lives so carefully staged, they made their movies look like documentaries. These weren't just actors. They were manufactured identities shaped by the powerful Hollywood studio system. Behind the cameras, their lives were full of buried secrets, twisted truths, and emotional wreckage so dark, it would put today's tabloid scandals to shame. Today, we're pulling back the curtain to reveal the most jaw-dropping, heartbreaking, and utterly human stories Hollywood tried to hide at any cost. 1. Marilyn Monroe, the orphan America never knew. Before she was Marilyn Monroe, she was Norma Jean Mortensen, an abandoned child bouncing between orphanages and foster homes. She never knew her father. Her mother was institutionalized. By age 16, she'd been placed in 11 different homes and married just to avoid being sent back to an orphanage. Her breathy, flirtatious persona? It was a carefully honed survival mechanism. Monroe lived in constant fear of being left behind. Her fame brought global adoration, but never real love. Her 3 marriages failed. Her affairs with powerful men like JFK were desperate searches for a father figure. Even at the peak of her fame, she would call friends in terror during the night, afraid of being alone. In 1962, at just 36, Monroe died of a drug overdose. The most desired woman in the world had died alone, and with her, a generation's illusion of fairy tale fame shattered. 2. Clark Gable and Loretta Young, a daughter erased. In 1935, Clark Gable and Loretta Young filmed The Call of the Wild and fell into a secret affair. Young became pregnant, a scandal that could ruin them both, so she vanished, gave birth in secret, put the baby in an orphanage, and later adopted her own daughter, Judy, without ever revealing the truth, not even to the child. Gable never claimed Judy. They met only once. She asked why she looked so much like him. Young lied to her face. Only in her 30s did Judy learn the truth, and it broke her. But from that pain, she rose. She became an actress and advocate, turning a lifetime of deception into a mission to help others find their roots. 3. Rock Hudson, a marriage made of lies. Rock Hudson was every woman's dream, tall, handsome, masculine, the ideal bachelor. But Hudson had a secret: he was gay. To protect his image, his agent arranged a fake marriage to Phyllis Gates in 1955. It lasted just long enough to silence the rumors. Then he went back to living in secret. But in 1985, everything changed. Hudson announced he had AIDS. He became the first major celebrity to do so. And in doing so, he humanized a disease shrouded in fear. Donations to AIDS research exploded. In death, Hudson finally lived his truth and became a quiet hero. For Merle Oberon, the actress who erased her race. In Wuthering Heights, she played a refined English beauty. But Merle Oberon wasn't British or aristocratic. She was born in Bombay, India, the child of a 14-year-old mixed-race girl. To protect her career, she lied. Claimed she was from Tasmania, where fire had destroyed birth records. Even her own children didn't know the truth. She lightened her skin, refused to visit Australia, lived in terror of being exposed. And yet, behind the facade was a kind, deeply lonely woman, haunted by the identity she had to kill to become a star. 5. Rita Hayworth, the price of reinvention. She was the sex symbol of the 1940s, the love goddess, the fantasy. But she was born Margarita Carmen Cancino, a Spanish dancer's daughter. The studio bleached her skin, electrocuted her hairline, and erased her Latin heritage. She became Rita Hayworth, whitewashed, renamed, rebranded. But her real pain was far worse. Her father, who forced her to perform with him from age 12, also abused her. Her beauty, confidence, and allure? A mask for a woman shattered by trauma. As Alzheimer's took her memory in later years, she reverted to speaking Spanish, her real voice slipping through the cracks. 6. Jack Nicholson, raised by his mother's lie. For 37 years, Jack Nicholson believed his mother was his sister, and his grandmother was his mom. It was the kind of secret that could only survive in mid-century America, when unwed motherhood was seen as a disgrace too shameful to bear. The deception was carried out flawlessly. June, his biological mother, became his older sister, and Ethel, his grandmother, raised him as her own son. Even extended family members played along. Nicholson discovered the truth not through family, but through a journalist. In 1974, a Time magazine reporter researching a profile on the rising Hollywood star uncovered the secret. By then, both June and Ethel had passed away, taking the full story to their graves. The revelation shook Nicholson, but it didn't break him. In fact, it offered clarity. As he later reflected, it was a pretty dramatic event, but it wasn't what I'd call traumatizing. I'd say it was a pretty benign discovery. Still, the knowledge reframed his entire identity. His sense of self, his history, his roots, suddenly rewritten in an instant. Perhaps this is why Jack Nicholson went on to create a very different kind of family. Though he never married, he fathered 6 children with 5 different women, and he remained a devoted, hands-on father to them all. Friends and insiders describe him as gentle, present, and emotionally invested in their lives. His daughter Lorraine, in particular, became a close caretaker in his later years, especially as he began to face health challenges and memory issues. There's a deep irony here. The man whose family had once deceived him with silence and shame became, by contrast, a parent who showed up with honesty and affection. He never judged his unconventional family structure. Instead, he embraced it. Nicholson often said that being a father gave him more joy than anything else in life, even more than his acting. In a town built on fantasy and illusion, Jack Nicholson's greatest role may have been off-screen, building the kind of truthful, loving family he never got to grow up with. 7. Raymond Burr, the star with a phantom family. Raymond Burr, star of Perry Mason, built a fake family to protect a real truth: he was gay. He claimed 2 wives who died tragically and a son who died of leukemia. None of them existed. In reality, Burr spent 35 years with his male partner, Robert Benavides, hidden from the world. But his heart was real. He quietly funded dozens of children's educations, donated to medical research, and helped foster kids. The fictional son he invented became hundreds of real ones, touched by his hidden generosity. 8. Patty Duke, the son with 3 fathers. At 23, Patty Duke was spiraling, dating Desi Arnaz Jr., actor John Astin, and then marrying a near stranger, Michael Tell, for 13 days. She got pregnant. For decades, no one knew who the father was. Her son, Sean Astin, believed it was John Astin, who raised him with love. But a DNA test later proved it was Michael Tell. Still, Sean says John will always be his real father. And Patty, eventually diagnosed with bipolar disorder, became a champion for mental health, turning chaos into courage. 9. Jerry Lewis, the forgotten daughter. To the world, Jerry Lewis was a tireless humanitarian, a comedic genius who raised over $2 billion during his lifetime for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. For decades, America watched him on annual Labor Day telethons, tearfully advocating for Jerry's kids, children with muscular dystrophy who found hope through his fame and fundraising. But for one woman, Lewis was something else entirely: an absent father, a man who wouldn't even return a phone call. Susan Mineret spent decades believing she was Jerry Lewis's biological daughter, born from a 1950s affair between Lewis and her mother, showgirl Lynn Dixon. Mineret lived in poverty, battling health issues including Crohn's disease, while her alleged father remained one of the wealthiest and most recognizable entertainers of his era. Despite years of attempted contact, Lewis refused to meet her or take a paternity test. In 2009, independent DNA analysis confirmed an 88.7% probability that Lewis was indeed her father. Still, he never acknowledged her, publicly or privately. And it wasn't just Susan. In a shocking twist, Lewis also cut all 6 of his sons from his first marriage to Patty Palmer out of his will, leaving his entire fortune to his second wife and their adopted daughter. One of his sons, Joseph, had died by suicide in 2009 after years of estrangement and public statements about their troubled relationship. The contradiction couldn't be more stark. A man who spent his life as a public advocate for vulnerable children, yet turned his back on his own flesh and blood. Critics and fans alike have struggled to reconcile the disparity between his public generosity and private cruelty. And yet, Lewis's dedication to the MDA was very real. His telethons helped countless families, raised awareness for a little-known disease, and gave disabled children a spotlight they had never been offered before. that legacy endures. But for Susan Mineret and Lewis's estranged sons, the legacy is far more complicated. While the world wept with Jerry on camera, his own children, and one he refused to recognize, watched from the shadows, wondering why the man who gave so much to strangers gave them so little. 10. Jean Tierney, destroyed by a fan's love. In 1943, pregnant Jean Tierney was approached by a fan who broke quarantine to meet her. The fan had rubella. Tierney's daughter was born with severe disabilities. Tierney never blamed her publicly, but the guilt consumed her. She suffered breakdowns, was institutionalized, and underwent electroshock therapy that erased her memories. Her tragedy inspired Agatha Christie's The Mirror Cracked, a fictional tale rooted in real, unimaginable pain. 11. Bobby Darin, the grandmother who was his mother. Singer Bobby Darin built a life on charm, speed, and swagger. But at 32, he discovered a family lie. The woman he called Mom was really his grandmother. His sister was his birth mother. The betrayal gutted him. He grew a beard, disappeared, and abandoned pop for protest music. Already dying from heart disease, the news gave him no time to process. He died at 37, never truly whole. 12. Lon Chaney Sr., raised in silence. Lon Chaney was the man of 1,000 faces, but his most powerful tool was silence. His parents were deaf. From them, he learned to communicate through expression, a skill that defined his career. He never told anyone about them, not even his first wife, but his love for them never faded. He sent money home, visited often, and portrayed every misunderstood monster with empathy born from real-life prejudice. 13. Ingrid Bergman, exiled for love. Ingrid Bergman was America's sweetheart, until she fell in love with director Roberto Rossellini while still married. She got pregnant. The backlash was swift and vicious. Denounced by the U.S. Senate, exiled from Hollywood, branded immoral. But in Europe, she made her best work, raised 3 children, and lived freely. Her Oscar-winning return in Anastasia marked a rare public apology, from Hollywood to a woman who chose love over image. 14. Charlie Chaplin, genius and scandal. Charlie Chaplin made the world laugh, but his real life was no comedy. At 35, he got 16-year-old actress Lita Gray pregnant. To avoid jail, he married her in secret. She later accused him of abuse and control. The studio covered it up. Despite his art's brilliance, Chaplin's personal behavior left a stain. He fought for the oppressed on-screen while manipulating the vulnerable off it. 15. Gloria Graham married her stepson. Gloria Graham was the ultimate femme fatale, sultry, dangerous, unforgettable. With her pouty lips and smoldering eyes, she captivated audiences in noir classics like The Big Heat and In a Lonely Place, even winning an Oscar for The Bad and the Beautiful. But her real-life scandal eclipsed anything Hollywood could have scripted. In 1948, Graham married director Nicholas Ray, her second husband. Their relationship was rocky and short-lived, marred by jealousy and personal struggles. But the real drama began in 1951, when Nicholas allegedly returned home early from a trip and found Graham in bed, not with a co-star or stranger, but with his 13-year-old son from a previous marriage, Tony Ray. The incident ended their marriage, but the public never learned the truth. Hollywood's fixers and studio publicists buried the story. Gloria went on working, and Tony disappeared from her life, until he returned. In 1960, when Gloria was 37 and Tony was 22, they quietly reunited and married in secret in Tijuana, Mexico. For years, they kept their relationship hidden from the world. Even their friends and colleagues didn't know the truth. But in 1962, during a bitter custody battle between Gloria and her third husband, the scandal surfaced. The press had a field day. Hollywood, now unable to protect her, turned its back. Overnight, Graham went from Oscar winner to industry pariah. She was blacklisted by major studios, reduced to television bit parts and stage roles. Her reputation never fully recovered. Yet, through it all, she and Tony stayed together. They had 2 sons and shared 14 years of marriage, longer than any of her Hollywood relationships. Tony remained by her side, even during her battle with breast cancer, which ultimately claimed her life in 1981. Friends described Gloria as a woman constantly searching for love and stability, often in the wrong places. But those close to her also say she truly loved Tony, and he loved her. It may have been taboo, it may have ended her career, but it was real. And in the end, the woman who played doomed lovers on screen lived a love story far more controversial and enduring than any Hollywood ever dared to film. 16. Barbara Stanwyck, the son she let go. Barbara Stanwyck adopted a boy, Dion, during a failing marriage. She gave him everything money could buy, but as he grew, they drifted apart. She was distant, disciplined, and emotionally closed off. They became estranged. At her death, she left him $5,000, the legal minimum to prevent a challenge to her will. The woman who played fierce, loving mothers on screen couldn't find the words to be one in real life. These weren't just secrets, they were survival strategies. Hollywood in its golden age didn't tolerate imperfection. So stars reinvented themselves, buried their pasts, lied to their children, and denied their truth, all to stay in the spotlight. But the cost was everything. Sparkles, if this episode opened your eyes, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe for more untold stories from the dark side of the spotlight. Because in Hollywood, nothing is ever what it seems.